Hi everyone, welcome back. I feel like I figured something out on the Chris Watts case. I wonder if I may have had a epiphany just listening to the interview of Chris Watts in prison, and the investigators kept asking really good questions. They kept saying, I'm confused about this part and I'm confused about that. I think that Chris Watts was mixing truth with half-truths and lies. There was a whole melange of, he would say these truths, and then he wouldn't bring himself up to fess up to other parts of what really went on. The minute Chris Watts said face down, I went bingo. I just felt bingo. And what I'm thinking is, first of all, people don't have sex with their underwear on. I don't know what planet anybody is, but it's really difficult to believe that Shannon Watts wanted to have sex with her bra on or her undies on. And when these detectives were asking him about that, he said, well, she liked to have sex with her bra on. He tried to say that very quickly. And then he said, well, she just liked a quickie. Well, what's the point of a quickie? She's already pregnant. He didn't use the word quickie, but in short words, that's what he tried to say. Just get it done or something like that. Nope. I'm not buying it. Not buying it at all, the whole sex story. So, the face down. I was wondering about this because people sleep on their stomach. I used to sleep on my stomach all the time until someone said, you need to learn to sleep on your side because it's bad for your back. Anyway, segue. Some people sleep on their stomach, and I know how people sleep on their stomach. They usually sleep with their arms up above their head, or they're hugging a pillow. They have to be hugging a pillow if they're on their stomach. They have the pillow, and then they put their arms around the pillow. And that's what face down looks like to me. So, there was no sex, there was no conversation. They may have had a fight over the credit card. That's a possibility. Who knows? She went to bed. That's how she went to bed. With her makeup on. Too tired to take it off. To deal with her makeup. A long trip. Long wait for the airplane. Got home. Went to sleep. Some women do sleep with their bra on. Some women feel that it keeps their breasts perky. Some of them sleep with their bra on. She went to sleep with her the tee that she wears to sleep. Her undies were on and her bra was on. Slept on her stomach with her arms above her head. And the autopsy revealed that she had finger marks on one side of her neck. Only on one side of her neck. That's where the finger marks were. So, with her arms above her head, with one arm, he did jump on top of her, just like he described. He kept saying, I got on top of her, I got on top of her, I got on top of her. He wasn't saying, I got on top of her for sex. That wasn't it. He got on top of her the way you ride a pony. He got on top of her with one arm. As strong man as this is, you can see how buffed he is. With one arm, he held her. Either her arms were crossed or he was able to hold her two wrists. Somehow with one arm, he secured her hands. And that's why he didn't have defensive wounds. And with the other one, he choked her. And by godly, I could be wrong on this, but this is what I think happened. And yeah, I could have been correct about the fact that there was a fight over the credit card because I think he went out with Nicole. Kissinger that night, that evening, while his wife was trying to get home, used the credit card. He kept talking about that. So maybe, perhaps there was a fight. Who knows? And she may have gone to bed tired. Tomorrow would be a next day, just like Gone with the Wind. Interesting in this whole interview was that if he's telling the truth about Kissinger, which I have a strong feeling that that was one of the truth he was saying, and I'll get to that place about telling the truth, the places where he might be telling the truth. If he's telling the truth about Kissinger, knowing that he was not unmarried, not separated, that he was perfectly married, a family man with kids and a wife, because apparently, and I think the discovery shows that Kissinger did look up being a mistress, marrying your mistress. So at one point they may have been a discussion or talk about marriage. Who knows? Leaving the wife, marrying the other one. And she looked up, spent 2 hours looking up wedding dresses. The relationship, the way it looks like it started, is that she was engaging with a married man knowing that he was married. Because he said that he spent the whole month of July at Atkinson's. He slept always every night at her house. And Nicole Kissinger. And Kissinger knew that he was getting phone calls from Shanann, and he was answering those phone calls. He would go outside and take those phone calls. There's a lot. Anyway, the bottom part of this is that Kissinger may have lied to the police to save face, or whatever the reason she lied to the police. And I don't know, I don't think the FBI, if it was the FBI in any way, I don't think they take that kindly. So the good news here is that Shanann's name is cleared. Hopefully this puts to rest. I think I've seen, Facebook is just quite something. I have seen people still thinking that they believe him. People thinking that, and you feel the pull. There's something about the tone of voice, the way he talks, that broken way of talking. And I'm wondering if it's just very manipulative, like something that gets on in the person's completely makeup at one point. I don't know. It may not even be intentional, may not be conscious, but the way he talks with a broken voice, and the way he talks about himself, so puny and so pathetic about things, I felt the pull again. You feel sorry for the guy. You think he's a doormat. Very peculiar. And the investigators explained to him the reason they came to talk to him was because there were so many unanswered questions. It's like as soon as they got a confession, then immediately he got booked. Then he pleaded guilty and he was put away, and they never got a chance to ask a lot of questions that were unanswered. And it looks very obvious that they are privy to what's happening on the internet, of course, and they're observing what's going on with this whole phenomena of people discussing the case, because they were asking him, they said, people are saying this and people are saying that. And they probably are finding that these are relevant questions to ask. And the second thing that they said was that they found him very unique, very different than perhaps anything that they've dealt with. I'm wondering if there's comorbidity, like there might be more than one disorder together. And the reason why I keep saying psychopathy is because even as he speaks of all this, of course, yes, he's crying when he's talking about killing Bella. Remember, he had at least 45 minutes to spare these girls. 45 minutes, the ride from home, plus 20 minutes that it took him to load the truck. I don't know if it was 20 or 30 minutes. More than an hour to consider. And he did say that this was a lot of rage, that he felt a lot of rage. Well, that could be rage with a plan, you can plan something and have rage at the same time. You can have a lot of rage and plan things. And he said, rage against everyone. Rage against everyone. And I'm wondering, against his own daughters as well. Yes, it makes you wonder. So was the rage... I did read one of the documents. It said that there was insurance in Shanann, and I haven't seen anything disputing that, and I don't know how much the insurance was. And that hasn't even come up, has not been mentioned, except for the mistress, the fling that he had. That happened fast. But when I talk about psychopathy, he never once really talks about really deep feelings, like he couldn't figure out exactly what he felt for NK. He was trying to understand that. He said, well, the new is always better than the old. That's what he said. Something new is better than the old. I think that it was the excitement. He said also, I have never been pursued before. He pursued Shanann, obviously, by the accounts that we have. He pursued Shanann. I have never been pursued before. So this woman, NK, pursued him. She set her eyes on him. You can see in the emails where this whole thing started. When you read the emails, when you see them, it's her initiating this whole thing. And the way she talks about the whole thing with Chris Watts on her interview, it's almost like making an acquisition. I don't know if anybody else agrees with me, but it's almost like, okay, she's thinking, going back and forth, do I want this guy or not? Well, he has kids, and it's the first time for me, and it's not the first time for me. If you love someone, you take them with everything. You take them with kids, with a baggage, with a past. You don't have to be concerned. Like, it's almost like, sounds like, okay, do I want a house with 2 bathrooms or a basement or a garage? Just really strange way of talking about someone that you come to care about. But she lied to the detectives. Seems like she lied to them about not knowing that Chris Watts was married and not unmarried or separated or divorced or anything like that. I wonder also, since Shanann was so public about her plans and things that she would do, did this woman, NK, figure out that Shanann was going to be gone for 5 weeks and zeroed in on that time to move in on this guy? I know I sound awful the way I speak of these people, but look at all the things that ensued. Lastly, there was also that gasoline tank, and the detectives asked him about that gasoline. And Chris Watts, when you hear this whole interview, there's nothing but consideration. He's so considerate of everybody else. He pleaded guilty out of consideration for everyone. Do not drag this on, and everyone's suffering and so forth. Everything is out of consideration for others. Very fascinating. But where was I? The gas tank. So he said that he was thinking about doing himself in, but he didn't do himself in. He could have done that at home. That's what most family annihilators do, it right in the same scene. And he didn't do himself in. He was saying that he was concerned about starting a fire, like if he thought about it more. Well, those tanks, they have like a rim around them of sand. They look like a containment area from some kind, and I didn't see any houses nearby. There's no neighborhood or houses nearby those tanks. So the only thing that I can think of is that see how he's saying these things? He makes it into, oh, I was thinking about other people, but could it be that his co-workers showed up unexpectedly for him and he didn't have time to cause an explosion. Don't know for sure that he was thinking about killing himself because he was so cool as a cucumber afterwards. And he repeated things that many of his supporters say. Oh, that you don't know how anybody would react or respond. For the most part, we get a sense of how people respond and react to things. The last part that was interesting is that he said that people wrote to him about CPTSD, people from London, complex post-traumatic stress, and in people that have suffered like spousal abuse, that they go through complex post-traumatic stress. And he didn't think that that's what it was. And it breaks your heart because when he talks, with that broken voice, he says that I wanted to get into a more in-depth, but I wanted to hit this thing about the face down because that to me was so key, and I ponder if these investigators are just gonna like pounce on that. They were already asking him questions about that, and they probably already had that possibility in their mind. They might tell us more if they come up with, there's something, it's really nice. They have crime reconstruction experts that they reconstruct the scene of a crime. They look at all the clues and all the information they have, and they reconstruct what they think might happen. So it would be nice, it would be interesting to know if they have a crime reconstruction theory. But anyway, we're always showing us like Chris Watts, the kinds of things he will say, that he went with Nicole to the sand dunes and they camped, and that was something he always wanted to do and he never got to do before. This is a grown-up man, not a child. And the other thing about it is that he was 25 when he married Shanann. He had been living with his parents until then. And then you wonder if his parents said, his mother said that they did everything for their kids and that they paid for their college education. So did they raise a crippled man, very passive and somewhat dependent? Or, like, I'm thinking there's a whole mixture of things. Now, talk about rage. He was talking about rage. And people are talking here about crimes of passion in the spirit of the moment. I still think there may have been plans, like, was he toying with the ideas in his mind? He did send that photo of a covered doll to Shanann. He sent her that, and there's those pictures of explosions that he sent to his co-worker on the text messages. Pictures of explosions. Was he giving little tiny clues of what was in his mind days ahead, how to get out of this situation with the two women? He just acts like, a man who didn't know what to do. He was being so passive. Everybody else was controlling his life. So, about rage and planning and crimes of passions and planning and still have rage. Think about this. Ted Bundy, crushing skulls. Can there be a tremendous amount of rage in violence? Yes, of course. I think that there's always a component of rage when there's violence. Maybe not, perhaps not always, but when it's a physical thing, perhaps. And he talked about rage, and he said rage against everybody. And that's when I thought, even your own daughters. Okay, I'm going to do a more